As Timothy said, I just want to thank Timothy and Patrick for inviting me. Good morning to you. My name is Matthew Charles. Like Tim said, in my past, I did live a different, difficult life. But in 1995, I was arrested for felony drug offenses, and I was sentenced to 35 years. But before I was sentenced, while in the county jail, I met a friend there, and we just started associating with one another. And when he left the county jail, he left me a few possessions, which was some hygiene products and a King James Gideon Bible. So I ended up, thank you. So I ended up taking that Bible, not necessarily expecting to read it, because prior to that, I'm sad to say I didn't believe in God because of the way that I was brought up. I was brought up in an impoverished household with a very abusive father. And because God never showed up to rescue my mother or siblings, I just never believed that God exists. But as I took that Bible, I started to read it because in the county jail, books were scarce. And after reading that, I started attending the different Bible study courses offered by the jail that I was in. And then that led to me surrendering my heart and life over to the Lord Jesus Christ. And unbeknownst to me, from that point on, everything just changed. I was like, wow. And God just started to transform me from the inside out. So once I entered into federal prison, I just started doing anything that a new Christian or a person of faith would do, which was learn more about the Christian faith. And in doing so, I started taking a lot of different Bible correspondence courses and going to the chapel service and just interacting with the other fellow believers at the institution. And then in 2010, the drug sentencing guidelines were changed, which removed the racial disparity between two drug types, crack cocaine and powder cocaine. So I filed a petition to have my sentence reduced, and it was reduced, and I was released in 2016. But the government appealed that release. And when I was released, the government appealed it based on the fact that those changes were not made retroactive. So therefore, I was out for nearly 2 years before I had to go back and serve that remaining 10 years. But while I was out, I ended up having a job, having an apartment, having a church home, and volunteering my time and services. Praise the Lord. So what took place was an NPR reporter through John Harrison, he contacted her, told her about my situation and said, this guy has already served over 20 years on a nonviolent drug offense. This guy's been also out for 22 months, nearly 2 years, and now they're telling him he has to go back. So the NPR reporter, not believing the situation, started investigating the situation, and then they just decided to pull up my record of incarceration to see what I had done during the 21 years that I was gone. And they was able to see that I had done it without any disciplinary infractions, not a one. They was also able to see it, as the president stated at the State of the Union, that I had taken successfully over 30 different Bible correspondence courses. And I did those things not as a form of using it to get out, because at the time there was no incentive for taking those rehabilitative programs. I was just doing it because after I finished one, it was the right thing to do to start with the next. So when he said it was over 30 something, I was surprised at that. But also they was able to see, as I stated, that I did so without any disciplinary infractions. They was also able to see that I worked as a GED tutor, where I helped several hundred people receive their GEDs that were incarcerated with me. Okay. As well as I worked in the law library, and I was able to help others be able to read their letters and things coming from the courts, as well as their attorneys. So they was able to see that. Then they looked at what I had done during that 2-year period that I was out. They seen that I was volunteering my time at a place called the Little Pantry that provides meals, or actually groceries, for impoverished communities, single-parent families, and homeless people. They was also able to see that I had a church, which was Nashville Vineyard, that I attend on a regular, and was an usher. So they was like, how does this serve any good to send you back to incarceration, seeing that you're doing everything that we would want a productive member of society to do? So because of that, I was made to go back. When I went back, I got a call from a Georgetown professor named Sean Hotwood that said that he would take my case pro bono and present it to Jared Kushner and the president because he was working on the First Step Act for the president as well as with some others. So as he took my situation and started sharing it with Jared Kushner and the president, and he also was able to take my situation and share it with several senators, showing that this is why we believe that rehabilitation as opposed to incapacitation need to be restored in the federal order. Well, it was at the time the federal as well as in the penal system. So after that, the First Step Act passed. But I didn't know that the First Step Act would be able to reach me because it only had incentives in it for rehabilitation. But in late November, I would say mid-November, I ended up seeing Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky at an Urban League event where he stated that it would make retroactive the 2010 change to the sentencing guidelines, give judges more discretion in the courtroom, and not give out a penalty of life for 3 strikes. So I was like, okay, that will reach me. Then it got held up in the Senate because Mitch McConnell didn't want to bring it to a vote because he was just uncertain about it. But at the president's insistence and at Jared Kushner's insistence, they was like, bring it up for a vote. Amen. So once it ended up passing and the president signed it in December, January 1st, I received a letter from my attorney showing that stating that they had filed a petition with the court to release me based on the First Step Act making retroactive those changes that formerly had me released. And I received that on New Year's Day. That's how God works. God is so good that on a New Year's Day, I received legal mail, and 3 days later, January 3rd, I was released. And since then, I was invited to the White House for the State of the Union, which I did attend, as well as back in April for First Step Act reunion. And I was there a couple weeks ago as we celebrate Second Chance Hiring. So I just want to say thank you and just show you how good God is, because he transformed the person that didn't even believe he exists to trying to convince anybody that he actually does exist. Thank you.